Hello and welcome to another episode of Metal Effort. My name's Nehemiah and we've got an interesting little knife to go over. The coolest part about this knife is where I got it from. Earlier today I met with none other than Nick Shabazz. That man is a gem, and proof of that is he gave me this knife which he got from Birdshot IV, the Honey Badger, and let me review it. So Let's dive right in with the dent. Slight modification of dent. I've decided that instead of the N standing for negative, I'm going to go with Nitpicks, because that's really what that section is about. It's not the really major flaws of the knife, just, things that I would like changed. And maybe it could even be in the category of just like personal preference. So I'm going to rename that Nitpicks. But we're starting off with a decent, so let's dive right in. First thing on the decent, and I'll kind of integrate the weight and size comparison while I talk about this knife. The weight of this is coming in under 3 ounces, which is fantastic. This is a very lightweight knife. This is due to the F-iron handles, which contributes to the lightweightness. And then you can see here there's some hollowing out of the stainless steel inserts, which is going to contribute to that factor. So good weight for this knife. The blade is a good shape and size, part of the decent here, and I will compare it to the Para 3 and the Para 2. I think will give you a good idea. Now, the Honey Badger comes in 3 different sizes. There's a small, medium, and large. This is the medium. So you can see its effective cutting length is somewhere in between the Para 3 and the PM2, almost the same as the Para 3 because that giant finger choil. It's a good size, it's a good shape, just kind of a classic drop point. There's a flat edge to it right here, and then enough belly to work with if you need such a thing. So blade shape, blade size, especially on the medium, I think this is my favorite size of the 3 sizes, about 3.2 inch. From the edge of the knife, a little bit less of the actual usable. Give you an idea, I guess I can give you a firm number on the usable length there. So we got about 2.7-ish, 2.8 of the actual cutting surface of that blade, which is good. Now, this seems innocuous at first, but this is going to start to look like a better and better knife as I go through these things. Next thing I think is in the decent is this clip. The clip is pretty low profile. It doesn't poke up too much, has enough of a ramp to get in there, no problem, has enough spring to get in. It's not a problem. Not only is it a deep carry clip, which is awesome, love those, but the screws are recessed. So even for like thick jeans or something like that, it's going to be able to go all the way to the top, no problem. This is a surprisingly good clip. I don't like the writing, but considering there's not much writing on the rest of the knife, I'll give it a pass on that. Excellent clip. Next is the grip. So you've got this like honeycomb for the Honey Badger kind of grip. So regardless of what grip you're going to have, this has a good feel to it. I definitely like the Vaseline factory is going to be able to pass the test on this guy. So that's excellent. Next is the jimping. So I actually counted the jimping, and if we count the jimping on the FRN here, there's over 100 notches on this knife. I kid you not. You've got jimping here, jimping here, jimping here, jimping. So even jimping here, obviously on the flipper tab, jimp. I'm not counting these as jimping. If I did, we'd be in like 120 jimpings. But you're more in the 99 jimping, and the Honey Badger doesn't care. I think the jimping is mostly a good thing. It's definitely the strength of this knife. It's not going anywhere. So I like that. The next thing is I cleaned this knife out as soon as I got it, just to see. Of course, Nick cleans his stuff out, and it was pretty much pristine inside. But it was good for me to take a look at it. This has ball bearings, guys. Cage ball bearings, 8 on one side, 8 on the other. I was surprised. It's got a good action. Obviously, it's got the flipper tab, and it deploys really nicely. You can actually do the Spidey flick on this knife, and it's a little awkward, and then you're surprised at how easy it opens. Like, you would think it wouldn't work, but those bearings are so good that I have to put this in the excellent, guys. Like, the action on this knife is excellent. So along with those bearings, the ease of cleaning it, it's only like three screws to get into the knife, clean it out, and that action is just buttery smooth. It's not going to take much for you to upkeep that action. I've got more excellent to talk about. So this might be a little bit of a contention with some people, but I actually really like this giant finger choil. The jimping, I mean, when I saw the knife, I was like, I don't know about that. But the jimping is so thin right here that it's actually not that aggressive. It's not like sharp, really, but it just gives you good purchase. You could stick it right in between your joint, and it's actually very, very comfortable, and it's just not going anywhere. I feel very in control of this knife. It's very reminiscent of like a Para 3 in that regard, of just, I feel connected to the knife, that, whatever I'm doing, if I need to, stab into some really thick, bubble wrap or something to get it poked in, it's not a problem. I'm not afraid that it's going to fold over or I'm going to slip or anything like that. The kind of combination of just control, blade shape, the choil, the jimping, the action, all this is adding up to, like, I don't have a lot to like complain about this knife. I've got some things that I'll mention, but to kind of wrap up this excellent, the value on this knife is incredible. So I knew that Birdshot IV had done a review. I haven't seen it yet. I think Nick might have made a review, but I don't even think he's put it out yet. And so I'm trying to go into this like fresh. I didn't know how much this cost. He just handed it to me. And so until right before I started recording is when I decided to look up the price. This knife is $35. So considering you have excellent action with multiple fun and satisfying ways and practical ways to open the knife, I was blown away. I was expecting maybe at the least $50, maybe $60, in which case I'd probably still recommend it at that price. But for $35, yowza, this is intriguing to me. This is very, very interesting from a value standpoint. So a couple negatives, and then we'll jump to the conclusion after that. So the steel on this guy, it's your classic 8CR 13 MOV. Not amazing. Obviously, it's a budget steel. It's going to be easy to sharpen, I would imagine. So that's not an issue. But for $35, I can't complain. Like I was gonna put this in like the terrible section if this was a $60 knife or more, but for $35, I can't expect more than that. And the design and like fit and finish on this knife is good enough to where I actually want them to make this in a different steel. That'd be awesome. Like if they did charge me $50 or $60, but put like S30V in here or something, this would be an extremely compelling knife. But even as it stands, it doesn't make or break the knife, this steel. So it's still just in my nitpick section. So next is, and this is going to be a problem for most people, but enough for me to mention it. It's tip up, right hand carry only. That is going to be good for the vast majority of people, but there's no option to move it to any other position. So keep that in mind if you're a lefty and you like the tip down. Don't get this knife. The choil part, now I put it in the part of the ergos and just the control section of like being excellent for me. I love giant choils like this. It might not be your cup of tea, so I'm also putting it in the nitpick because maybe this is just too much for you. I think it's kind of a way for me to cheat. If I ask somebody, they're like, hey, Nehemiah, what's a good knife? I want $50 or less. What should I get? And for some reason, people in that price range that aren't like knife people, they like their serrations. And so if they say they like serrations, I might just cheat a little bit and recommend this knife. It's a choil, it's jimping, it's not serrations, but I don't know, maybe it'll trick them, and then they'll see the light and appreciate this knife anyway. Next thing is the fuller that you've got this little groove on the pivot screws. You can already see there's a bunch of junk getting up in there. I don't need that little line there. If you just took it off, that's one less thing to collect crud. I mean, if this is the kind of thing I'm complaining about, you know you've got a good knife here, but I don't know. It's like less work for you to put that line in the screw, so maybe take that out. That'd be a slight improvement to the knife. So that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't have a terrible, honestly. Like, there's nothing to complain about. I cannot complain. I cannot put the steel type in the terrible section for $35. I just can't do it. And so, you know, for me, being a right-hander, preferring tip up, that is not a negative to me. So the clip's where I want it to be. It's the kind of clip I want. It's even got the attention to detail with those set screws, so it's not taking up too much space. It's centered. It's pretty much good to go, man. I am happy to recommend this knife to anybody with a $50 or less budget. You know, buy this for $35 and take me out to Chipotle. So that's it, guys. This isn't a long video. I want to speed through this. I'm trying to get my videos down to a better time. I really am glad that Nick gave this knife to me. Thank you so much, sir. You are a gem. And I look forward to continuing our partnership with trading knives and giving each other knives and hanging out. It's fun. I appreciate it. Have a good week, everybody. See you next time.